Pranam. Could you kindly confirm, am I audible? And the screen
Hare
is
Krishna,
visible?
yes, Prabhuji,
Yes,
you are audible.
Prabhuji. Screen
Yes,
also is
yes.
visible.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Thank you for the confirmation. So I have again got the humble opportunity to present Srimad Bhagavatam. As you all know, I don't have any qualification or knowledge to do or to talk about such an elevated subject. But with the blessings of all the Vaishnavas, I'm again trying to attempt this. I request and pray for blessings from all of you. Thank you so much. We'll start with Mangalacharan. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Chakshurinmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Mena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadadi Sopadandikam Vandeham Shri Guru Sri Yudapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijanasahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostude Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंदा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते जयपताक स्वामिन्निधि नामिने नमाचार्यपादाय निताय कृपाप्रदायिने गौरकथा धामदया नगरग्रामतारिणे नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन्निधि नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशधारिणे Hare Krishna, everybody again. So today we are going to talk about the creation of Kumaras and others, or these are basically the secondary creation by Lord Brahma. So what we intend to discuss today is, I'll quickly go through because we have started the Bhagavatam citation or the classes since a few months back, and I was actually reflecting on it a few days back, whether I remember any of the things which were taken. So as a respect to all the elevated Vaishnavas who have taken classes many times with so much of wonderful knowledge, I'm just trying to recap what we have covered very in a short way so that we can remember this and then hopefully relish. This is one thing I would intend to do. Then creation of Kumaras and others. So it has various areas. So Brahma's creation, how he started. Then talking about the four Kumaras and Rudra. Then after creating Rudra, what instructions Brahma gave him. Then creation of stages, manifestation of religion and other qualities. And then Brahma's sensual desire, a lot of things for us to learn from. And why Brahma gave up his body, manifestation of the Vedas, then other creations, and finally creation of Swayambhu Manu. So these are things we will quickly try to cover today. So we're coming to Canto 1, creation. So it's a very elevated, probably one of the most elevated lessons, and the entire Bhagavatam. Of course, we cannot say something is elevated, something is not elevated, but the beginning is absolutely nectarian with many beautiful verses. It's a very long chapter with canto with 19 chapters inside that, and we'll quickly try to understand the beginning. So the first part, the first sloka in Srimad Bhagavatam, starting with Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Janmadyasya yatonvayati tarataschartheshu abhijnaswarat tene brahmahridaya adikave muhyanti yasurayah tejo varimridam yatha vinimayo yatra sargo mrisha dhamnasvena sada nirastaguhakam satyam param dhimahi. Here, in the Bhagavatam, we are starting with the first of all respect to the Lord, and then paying obeisance to Him with the mantra of Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Then this sloka defines the 7 characteristics of the absolute truth. I always found it very difficult to understand because it's a very long purport Prabhupada has written. But listening to many great Vaishnavas, some kind of an idea I have got. So it's defining the 7 characteristics of the absolute truth, which is first of all saying Janmadhyasa. Janmadhyasya means Janma Adi. That means the creation and the following things, which is basically creation, then maintenance and annihilation. So these are all the primeval cause. So the absolute truth is the primeval cause, or Lord Krishna is the primeval cause of Janma Adi. That is the one. The second point, or the second one, is called cognizant. Lord, when the creation is happening, or whatever is happening in the entire universe, whether it is a material world or it is the spiritual world, he is cognizant, he is aware, he is absolutely aware. Unlike jivas, we are very limited to ourselves. I mean, we can only understand about ourselves, our body, and nothing beyond that. And some perceptions we are able to get because of our senses. Beyond that, we cannot. But unlike us, Lord is aware of every small thing happening in everywhere. And as we all know, he is sitting as Paramatma in the hearts of all of us. And then he is able to understand every minute thing happening anywhere. Then the third point is Swarat, which shows that he is totally independent. He is not dependent upon anybody to do this creation, to maintain it, and to annihilate it. It's up to him, and he is completely as per the wish of the absolute truth. Then the next point is enlightener. He is enlightener. So here it is mentioned that he has enlightened, or he has given the knowledge of the spiritual knowledge to Brahma, Lord Brahma, in the beginning through by appearing in his heart. So he is the enlightener of everything. And at the same time, it's also interesting to know he is a bewilderer. He creates a bewilderment. There are examples in the same sloga given. Like we see sometimes, if you are in a, how to say it, in a place where it's a maru area where we will not be able to differentiate between the presence of water and heat. So in the heat itself, sometimes we tend up seeing water. That is one example here. And another example given is in the water we tend to see land. So these are all bewilderment. Similarly, all the elevated personalities in this universe also get bewildered because of the presence of the Maya potential, or the external potential of Lord. So Lord is also, or absolute truth also, is the bewilderer. And then is absolute truth is always based on factual reality. It's always based on factual. Everything is factual basis. And then finally, although we see that the Maya potential is there, the external energy is there, and the material world is there, and Lord has his eternal abode. That is Thamna Svena Sada Nirastagum. So he's always staying in his eternal abode, and he's never affected or never impacted by the presence of Maya energy, and Maya energy is always staying behind him. So with these 7 characteristics explain the absolute truth in a very beautiful way in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam. Then moving ahead to the next sloka. So the first 3 slokas are most nectarian and very beautiful. So the second sloka here, it is again another 7 points explaining or talking about the glorification of Srimad Bhagavatam. So dharma prochita kaida potra paramo nirmatsaranam satam vedyam vastavamatra vastu shivadam tapatrayon Srimad Bhagavate Mahamunikrite Kimva Parairishvara Sadyo Hridi Avarutyate Trakritipi Shusrushibhistatshanat. So here the first point is very interesting. It says Dharma Prochita Kaidavotra Paramo. So here the Srimad Bhagavatam is rejecting what they call as the Kaitava Dharma. Kaitava Dharma is also translated into English as a cheating religion, religion which cheats. Like in the previous class with Srivas Prabhu, we discussed what are the Purusharthas. We talked about Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. So generally in the Hindu philosophy, everybody accepts this as the ultimate purpose of human life. So what we do, we follow the dharma. Following the dharma, without doing wrong things, we earn money, or through that we earn artha. And using this artha, we fulfill all our desires or kama. And then finally, once we are tired of enjoying the senses and then seeing that nothing we can achieve, then we finally give up everything and try to go towards moksha. The problem with the dharma here, following dharma, is many times we start following our own dharma. Many times we concord the dharma in many ways and think that that is the right way to do. So here Bhagavatam is rejecting the entire concept of this Purushartha and saying that this is not at all useful in any way. It is called Kaidava Dharma or the cheating religion. And the only dharma which is useful to the human society or humanity in large is only bhakti. So first it is rejecting. So Prochida means kicking out in a very strong way. So the cheating religion is kicked out. And the second one is propound the highest truth. So highest truth is mentioned here as only Krishna or the absolute truth here. That is propounded. Understandable by, and then it is saying Nirmatsaranam Satam. So the knowledge of Bhagavatam cannot be understood by all people. People who are non-envious, only such people will be able to understand Srimad Bhagavatam or the knowledge of Lord. That is mentioned here. Then it is also mentioned here distinguishes between reality and illusion. So Srimad Bhagavatam is always forcing us or in a way guiding us towards the reality which is the absolute truth or Supreme Lord Krishna. Then it is also mentioned all kind of three miseries are uprooted after going through Srimad Bhagavatam. Once we understand Srimad Bhagavatam, that helps us to uproot the three forms of miseries in the form of the miseries which are caused by our body and mind, miseries which are caused by other living entities, and also miseries which are caused by the natural forces. Everything is gone, completely gone. Then sufficient for God realization. So Srimad Bhagavatam is in a very clear way declaring that to realize the Lord, to be able to go back to the Godhead, we don't need to depend upon any other scripture or we don't need to actually read or understand anything else. Srimad Bhagavatam is good enough, or that is the ultimate say to realize God. And then finally, it also establishes the presence of the Lord very much in the heart. So it is saying that immediately, as sloka, as soon as we are able to understand or focus on Srimad Bhagavatam, the presence of Lord is there within our heart immediately without any delay. This is second sloka. Moving to the third one, it says, Nigamakalpadarorkalitam phalam Shukamukhadamrtadrava samyutam Pibada Bhagavatam Rasamalayam Muhuraho Rasika Bhuvi Bhavukaha. Here now the third point is, or the third sloka is an invitation to all the personalities or the people or the devotees to relish Srimad Bhagavatam. Nigama Kalpadarorkalitam phalam. If you compare Srimad Bhagavatam, if you compare all the scriptures to Kalpataru or the desire fulfilling trees, and Srimad Bhagavatam is the ripened fruit which is coming from this, all the Vedic knowledge, all the scriptures. And then it is mentioned here that Pibada Bhagavatam. So the fruit, generally what we do is all the fruits are eaten. But here it's saying Pibada, drink the nectar of Bhagavatam. Why it is mentioned here? Because it is also uh, touched by the lotus face of, or it is all coming from the lotus face of Sri Shuka Goswami. And he is compared to a parrot here. Generally, we all know that a fruit which is touched by a parrot becomes very more relishable or more sweet or more attractive. So similarly, once Shukadeva Goswami has spoken Bhagavatam, it became absolutely nectarian nature, and there is nothing to leave in Srimad Bhagavatam. So it is compared to a fruit or a mango fruit where there is no seed inside and there is no outer covering. So in such a case, it is in a condensed form of nectar which we have been asked to drink directly. So these three slokas explain very beautifully about the in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam about the three main points: definition of the absolute truth, glorification of Srimad Bhagavatam as such, and then finally invitation to all of us to relish Srimad Bhagavatam. And then moving ahead in the same canto, there are very elevated subject where the sages in Naimisharanya asking 6 questions. So these 6 questions are: what is the ultimate good for people? Essence of or what is the essence of all the scriptures? Purpose of Krishna's appearance in this material world? Then a request to describe or to make us understand the Purusha avatars of the Lord. And then what are the Leela avatars? And then finally, where did Dharma took shelter after Krishna disappeared from this material world? These were the 6 questions which were asked by the sages of Naimisharanya to Sri Sri Shuka Goswami, Sri Sudha Goswami, sorry. So here answers are given very nicely. So what is the ultimate good for people to develop love for God or through bhakti? So bhakti is or bhakti yoga is propounded here or recommended here in the first answer. So in Srimad Bhagavatam there is a beautiful sloka which says Savai pumsam paro dharmo yadho bhakti radhokshaje ahaituki apratihata yatma suprasidati. So the only way to get happiness or ultimate goodness in the heart of us is only through having complete surrender to the Lord and to have bhakti. So this sloka is mentioning that. And then the second question is essence of all scriptures. So basically, if you look at the first two questions, the answer are the same. Both of them are saying that devotional service or bhakti yoga is the essence of everything. That is best for the people, and as well as it is the devotional service, which is also the essence of all scriptures. And what is the purpose of appearance of Krishna in this material world? To reclaim people in the mode of goodness. So that is why it is very clearly explained. Although we have to transcend all the three modes of material nature, but being in the mode of goodness is the only way to go back to the Lord. So here Krishna is coming into the material world only with one purpose, to reclaim the people and to bring them back to Godhead, back home with by attractive pastimes. Then the third thing is about describing the Purusha avatars. As we all know, the Purusha avatars are the plenary portions of the Lord, which are Kshirodaka Sai Vishnu, Garbhodaka Sai Vishnu, and Karnodaka Sai Vishnu. And also, Karnodaka Sai Vishnu is known as the first Mahavishnu who lies in the causal ocean. And then millions of universes, and then many, many worlds are emanated coming out of him from the pores of his body, and then he expands himself as Garbhodaka Sai Vishnu and lies in the Garbhodaka ocean. So this is also explained. I don't know, some lines are creating automatically. Sorry for that. And lies in the Garbhodaka ocean. And this is the way the Purusha Avatar is explained by Sri Shuka Goswami. And then the request is to explain the Leela Avataras. So after the Purusha Avataras, which are actually leading with the internal energy. So the internal energy of the Lord is responsible or deals with all the Purusha Avataras, and this world is created. Then what happens? The Lord descends into the world as Leela Avataras. So the Leela Avataras are always dealing with his internal energy. And in Srimad Bhagavatam, there are 21 incarnations of the Lord explained here. All the many avatars, the 10 avatars as you know, and then much more are explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. But ultimately, towards the end, Bhagavatam also declares that there are unlimited incarnations of the Lord. There is not these 21 incarnations, but we know that there are unlimited. Nobody will be able to actually count the number of incarnations of the Lord. So the fifth question is also answered. And finally, where did Dharma took shelter after Krishna's disappearance? Once Krishna went back to Swadham, where did the Dharma took shelter? And it is mentioned as Srimad Bhagavatam. And it's also mentioned that Srimad Bhagavatam is completely non-different from the Lord. And it's Srimad Bhagavatam as a book is the avatara of Lord Krishna himself. And here in the as a summary of this, the glories of bhakti is highlighted in a big way. So we'll quickly understand what are the main concepts in the first canto. So bhakti, the authenticity and supremacy of the process of bhakti is established very, very well and very strongly. Then Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead, or the personal form of the Lord, Bhagavan is also established and highlighted. And then Bhagavatam, the book called Bhagavatam, which is incarnation of Lord himself, is also established very beautifully and clearly in the first canto. So further going ahead, history of Srimad Bhagavatam, story of Sri Narada Muni, Kunti Stuti, Bhishma Stuti, etc., all come in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which we have understood and released many times. And canto first ends with the following question to Parishit Maharaj. 1 second, sorry. a second. I lost my slide. Is the slide visible for everybody, Ataji?
Yes, Prabhu, the slide is still visible.
Okay, I'm not able to see it now anymore. I'll just take 1 second.
Maybe you can stop sharing and start, Prabhu, if you're not able to see.
Yeah, but the stop sharing option. Okay. Yes. Yeah, I hope it's visible now, right?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay. So the question here, Parishit Maharaj is asking is what a person is supposed to hear, chant, and remember throughout one's life, and more importantly, especially at the at the time of the death of the person. So the question, in a way, if you translate, it asks how to live and how to live. So how to live in this world, in this material world, and how to live in the right way from this material world. So these questions are asked by Sri Parishit Maharaj. So that's where it ends. So quickly moving to the second canto here. So again, there are it's comparatively a smaller canto with 10 chapters. So the first step in the God realization, the Lord in the heart, etc. The 10 chapters are explained in a beautiful way. And here we look at the answer to the question by Parishit Maharaj. So before Shukdev Goswami answers the question which Parishit Maharaj put across, so what a person need to do in this entire life in this world, as well as what he should do at the time of his death. So he first of all glorified the question. He says that this question is so noble, and answering or with the answers of this question coming in, it will be absolutely going to create welfare for the entire humanity. So in a way, Shukdev Goswami is so much impressed by the most appropriate question which is coming from Parishit Maharaj. And then he is answering, before answering what a person should do, he is answering what a person should not do. So the first one which is mentioning is life of a Grihamedi. The entire day is spent working hard to earn a little bit of money, and the night of such people who are defined as Grihamedis, they spend on either sleeping or enjoying the sensual pleasures. So in a way, it is mentioned that the entire life is wasted like this without understanding of God. So generally, if you look at all of us, we use the word called grihastha, and if you really critically look at it, we can very easily understand how many of them actually are grihasthas. Many of us are probably grihamedis, where all our life, all our energy, all our hard work is only put into earning some little bit of money and then using that to enjoy the life all the time. So it is defined as grihmedi. So it's mentioned by Shukadeva Goswami that a person should not be living like this. That's the first answer he gives. Then he says, what are we supposed to do? So what we have to do, we have to hear Krishna's activities, and we have to chant the glories of Krishna all the time, and also remember Krishna all the time. So in a way, Bhagavatam says that there is only one principle in entire Krishna consciousness, that is remembrance of Krishna all the time. Remember him all the time and never forget him. So remembering Krishna always and not forgetting Krishna is the purpose of life. So at the end of one's life, naturally, if you lead like this, if you chant the glories of the name, if you hear Krishna Gada all the time, etc., then it's a very good possibility that one will be able to go remember Krishna at the time of leaving this world also, and then go back to Godhead. So here this is the sloka which mentioned Tasmat Bharata Sarvatma Bhagavanishwaro Hari Shrotavya Kirtitavyascha Smatavyachedatabhayam. So this sloka very clearly mentions this point. So chanting of the holy name. So here, this chapter also mentions the most important thing, or the most, not the chapter, the canto mentions that the most important thing for a person to do is the chanting of the holy name, but not to reduce the importance of listening. So it's not that listening is less important, but chanting is, or the remembrance or the utterance of the names of the Lord is most important. So it's a sloka in this context here. अलमलमलमेका प्राणिनां पादगानां निरसनविषयेया कृष्णकृष्णेति वाणि यदि भवति मुकुन्दे भक्तिरानन्दसान्द्रा करतलकलिता सा मोक्षसाम्राज्यलक्ष्मी. It's a sloka which is again coming in the Mukundamala Sotram. Towards the end of Mukundamala Sotram, Kulshekhara Alvas is mentioning Alam Alam Alameka. So to all these people of this world, he is saying Alam 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 means enough, enough, enough. We have done enough of Padagam. Padagam means sinful activities. So to be able to remove the impact of all the sinful activities, what you have to do? Nirasana Vishaya Krishna Krishnedi Vani. One need to only chant the name of the Lord. Then he is mentioning by chanting the names of the Lord, will it only remove the inauspiciousnesses and remove the many sins we are doing? No, then he is saying through chanting, Yadi Bhavati Mukunde, through chanting, if you are able to have bhakti or devotion at the lotus feet of the Lord, what will happen? Karadala Kalita Sa Moksha Samrajya Lakshmi. So in the hand, you will be able to hold Moksha, Samrajya, Lakshmi, everything. So one way to understand is moksha or liberation is within your heart, very easily achievable. Samrajya is kingdom and everything. Lakshmi is all kind of opulences. Everything is possible to achieve. So here in a way is mentioning that by having bhakti, these things become of no importance, no value, or the indirect indication is that you will be able to have a you'll be able to go back to the Lord head or associate, will be able to associate with the Lord directly. So it's a very beautiful sloka which talks about the importance of chanting the holy name of the Lord. So moving ahead. So moving more into the details of this canto, Shukadeva Goswami talks about Ashtanga Yoga. So here it is interesting to understand because Bhagavata has always spoken about only bhakti. So why Shukadeva Goswami is talking about Ashtanga Yoga? So it is again mentioned here by many Vaishnavas who are giving purports or explanation to this canto. The purpose is only to compare and establish the supremacy of Bhakti Yoga. That is why he is talking about Ashtanga Yoga, just to reject it. So there is one example here of a jewelry kept in a plate. So if you go and buy many beautiful jewelry for the lordships, for the deities, and then keep it in a very steel plate, most probably you will not be able to see the beauty of it because of the presence of a very, how to say it, lusterful background. But if you keep a blue cloth or a dark cloth and then keep all the jewelry on top of it, one will be able to appreciate the beauty of the jewelry in a much better way. So similarly, Ashtanga Yoga and other principles are explained by Shukadeva Goswami so that bhakti will get highlighted, or the beauty or the luster of bhakti will be even more appreciable for the people who read and understand Bhagavatam. And further, Virat Rupa is explained, and then Paramatma is explained in various ways by Shukadeva Goswami. But then moving ahead, he says, however, the above is not actually recommended to be followed. So he's mentioning that all those things which I have explained before about Ashtanga Yoga, about Virat Rupa, how you meditate on the Virat Rupa form of the Lord, etc., etc. These are all not to be recommended. And then he is quoting Lord Brahma saying that after understanding, after reading, and after knowing all the scriptures directly from the Lord, Lord Brahma has come to the conclusion that Bhakti Yoga is the best path, and probably that is the only path to be followed. The topmost yogi is one who is able to do devotional service to the Lord. So yogi is actually not the one who is following Ashtanga Yoga, but a person who is following the Bhakti Yoga is only considered to be a real yogi. So one very interesting statement I heard during I was listening to lecture was, in the spiritual world, only bhakti is practiced. So there is no question of practicing of Ashtanga Yoga or how to say it, karmis are not present. So only devotees are present in the spiritual world of Krishna. That is a very beautiful and hard-hitting fact which we can very easily understand. So ultimately, if you want to associate with the Lord, if you want to go back to Godhead, really, the only way for us is Bhakti Yoga and worship Krishna in all circumstances. There are many slokas mentioning in Srimad Bhagavatam. Anybody, person with desires or people without any desire or person with a desire for liberation, everybody need to worship Krishna only. Why it is mentioned like this? Because a person, if he is worshipping Krishna with desires, Krishna is very smart. He knows how to remove those desires and bring him to bhakti completely. And this we know from the pastime of Dhruv Maharaj, where Dhruv Maharaj had a very strong desire to have the most opulent position, even beyond Lord Brahma. And then once Lord appeared in front of him, he got rid of all the desires, and then he could not even think about any kind of desires. But Krishna, Lord gave him all these benefits, and all the desires were fulfilled, but he did not give ultimately any importance to that. So this is why it is mentioned that you can even worship Krishna with desires, because he will be able to take out all the desire from our heart. Now, going ahead, Shukadeva Goswami offers a wonderful prayers to the Lord in between. That's a long session in this particular canto. And then, can you please speak the pastimes of Krishna? This is another question coming from Parishit Maharaj. Is requesting Shukadeva Goswami to explain the pastimes of Lord Krishna with his entire energy, or in a way, is indicating he would like to know about the Purusha avatars and the Guna avatars of the Lord, and also the Leela avatars of the Lord, which is basically run by the internal potency of the Lord. So here, instead of answering these questions directly, here Sri Shuka Goswami, he goes back to a discussion between Sri Narada and Lord Brahma by putting these six questions. These six questions were actually asked by Narada Maharshi or Narada Muni to Lord Brahma. So he goes back to this particular discussion. So this is one bona fide way we can always see. Even a personality like Sri Shuka Goswami is with that kind of knowledge, where even his own father became his disciple. He is not trying to answer many elevated questions directly. Rather than doing that, he is quoting from other elevated Vaishnavas. So here the questions are: what are the characteristics of this universe? Who is the shelter of this universe? How is this universe created? Then how the destruction and the conversation of the universe is happening? What is the universe dependent on, etc. What are the ingredients of this universe? And then finally, who are you meditating upon? So I'm not going into the details of this. So everywhere, in a way, uh, 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 Lord Brahma is answering Sri Narada by saying that everything is coming from Lord Narayana or Lord Mahavishnu only. There is nothing else. That is the crux of all these discussions. And then the final question is very interesting. Who are you meditating upon? So here Narada Muni says that he always thought that Lord Brahma is the ultimate truth. He is the supreme personality. And then he says, I have noticed that you are also meditating upon somebody. That is a big surprise for him. But this question from Narada is only for people like us, for our better understanding, because he is an eternal associate of the Lord. He knows Lord very well. But this question is asked for our benefit. So Lord Brahma very beautifully answers this question, saying that I am not the supreme personality of Godhead. I am also completely under the control of the supreme personality, and he takes the name of Lord Narayana here. Moving ahead, so the second canto here, if you see Krishna as the ultimate reality behind the universe and the process of creation through his various energies is established. So second canto is also establishing how Lord is the only truth. Ultimately, if you see, and then all the creations, all the various creations are happening are also the energy of the Lord only. So moving fast ahead, Canto 3. Now we move to Canto 3. We have already completed 11 chapters. Many of the Vaishnavas have taken beautiful classes, and then 11 are completed, and now we are moving to the 12th chapter. So 11th chapter, uh, if you see as a summary of it, so it's we see that mainly this canto is discussions or the dialogues between Vidura and and Maitreya Maharshi. Vidura is seeking knowledge about the ultimate reality and the means to attain it. And Maitreya Maharshi is answering these questions. So detailed explanation of creation of the universe by Brahma or the secondary creation is explained here. including the appearance of the initial incarnations of the Lord. Then Maya or illusion is discussed in detail, and the different aspects of material nature, the importance of detaching from material desires, etc., are explained in the previous chapters in Canto 3. So in the last class was taken by Srivas Prabhuji with his blessings, where he discussed upon one important point. So in the pursuit of whatever we do in devotional service or in our daily activities, the only thing we need to remember is everything we have to do for the happiness or for the pleasure of the Lord. So this is some one of the, how to say it, hard hitting points I could collect, because this is something which we often forget, especially while we are engaged in the day-to-day activities. We don't remember this point all the time. So this is something Prabhu emphasized quite a lot. And then I realized that even when I am doing devotional service, DT worship, etc., it becomes mechanical many times, and we forget that we are doing it for the pleasure of Krishna. So this was the main discussion we had in the previous class. And then if you go back to the last class, this is a very short summary of that. The time was discussed in detail by Soumya Prabhu, the atomic basis of time. The chapter had started with the ultimate reality is an invisible part called the atom, that is the smallest reality, and the movement of this particle forms the basis of time measurement. That's what was mentioned. Then the nature of the atom, despite appearing in various forms, the atom maintains its original and unified nature throughout the existence. This was mentioned. Then time as a measure of atomic moment. So the time of an atom is defined by the duration it takes to occupy a specific atomic space. So these are all design, very technical matter design. But if we look at again the summary of it, time is the potency of the Almighty Personality of Godhead Hari, who controls all physical movements. So Krishna in Bhagavatam says that he is Kala. So it's very, very clearly mentioned that in behind time also it is Lord only. And then expansion of time, how it happens, etc. is mentioned. And then finally, the conclusion from this chapter is that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, is the origin of all causes, including time, which is the Kala or the Kala Chakra, which is rotating all the time. So this we just conclude all the recap from here, and then we are moving ahead to the subject matter of our discussion in this particular class. So creation of Kumaras and others, that is how this chapter is named. And in a way, what we need to understand here is this is the creation by Lord Brahma, which is also known as the secondary creation. So here in the beginning of the chapter, Maitreya Maharshi is talking to uh, Vidura. So he's starting with this particular sloka. इति ते वर्णितच्छ्रद्धा कालाख्या परमात्मना महिमा वेदगर्भोधा यस्साक्षीन्निबोध मे. So here Maitreya Maharshi is saying, O learned Vidura, so far I have explained to you the glories of the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his feature as Kala. Now you can hear from me about the creation of Brahma, the reservoir of all Vedic knowledge. So here he is also doing a recap himself, saying that in the previous chapters I was talking about Kala, or the time or the eternal time, which is the energy of the Supreme Lord. Now he is saying that we can move ahead and hear about the secondary creation, which is done by the all-powerful material being or the most elevated material being, who is known as Lord Brahma. So Brahma's creation. So five, what all? So as a summary of the creation of Brahma, look into that. So the five kinds of nescience is created by Brahma as the first creation. Then the four Kumaras are created. Then Rudra is created by Lord Brahma. Then the primary sages, the 10 sages are created by him. And then the Vedas and Upavedas are created. And then finally, Swayambhuva Manu and Shatarupa, the consort or the companion of Manu, is created. So these are the creations of Lord Brahma, put it in a very summarized way. And Swayambhuva Manu and Shatrupa, although they are created by Lord Brahma, one way of understanding or misunderstanding could be that then they are, brother and sister. But Bhagavatam very clearly mentions that They are known as the couple manifestation. So from when they emanated from Brahma, they are not considered to be their Brahma's son or daughter, but they are considered to be the body of Brahma himself, or a portion of the body of Lord Brahma himself. And they came as couple themselves in the very beginning itself. So they were consorts, eternal consorts together. So the five kinds of nescience further explained is the first one is self-deception or illusion, as we can call it, and the second one is the sense of death. Then the third one is anger, which is created by because of frustration. Then the sense of false ownership in this material world, the illusory bodily conception or forgetfulness of one's real identity as the servant of the Supreme Personality. And then these are the five nesciences created by Lord Brahma in the beginning. So the conditions under which a living being in this material world has to live, it's very important. If a living being has to live in this material condition, these deceptions or these nescience in a way, nescience is which is completely controlled by this material energy, are very important. So Bhagavatam mentions that without this condition created in the very beginning, it is impossible for a material being to live here, because you will not be able to find any happiness. As soon as person comes in, will only think about the Lord, and or will find it impossible to maintain life here, or he will give up the body or whatever. No, so these conditions are created because of that purpose. So as we understand, self-deception is nothing but illusion. So we are always in illusion. The sense of death, because we are in illusion or unforgetfulness, the sense of death is always there, which is hovering around us all the time. The anger is mentioned as after frustration, because there is a enjoyment propensity of the material beings, and the enjoyment is not happening. It leads to frustration and finally anger. And the sense of false ownership, we all know that we want to own many things in this material world, like a house or houses or cars and many things. Although we know that we are not the real owner, because at the death we will all lose it, but still this false sense of ownership is extremely strong. And the illusory bodily conception is probably the most strongest illusion we are in all the time, because we are only able to identify with this body all the time, and it is happening because of the forgetfulness about one's real identity as the servant of the Lord. So Lord Brahma, although he created all these five essences, he was not happy. So he became unhappy looking at his own creation. What I have created, such a bad, elements I have created. So it is mentioned that he purified himself by meditating on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So it's a very nice indication for us, before we do anything, unless and until we purify ourselves by submitting us to the Lord and taking energy from the Supreme Lord, or understanding that He is a real controller, any of the creation, whatever we do, will never be able to give us happiness. So moving ahead, and here now the four Kumaras are created by Brahma. The four Kumaras are created, as we know, Sanaka, Sananda, Sanatana, and Sanat Kumara. And after, as soon as they were created, Lord Brahma expected them to move ahead and do their work. So the purpose of all this creation of Lord Brahma was what? To create progenies, or to increase the number of people in this material world. But then here, as soon as the Kumaras are created, they were already very elevated material beings. Although in the beginning their aim was only liberation, not attaching directly to the Lord. But Bhagavatam mentions that indirectly they had attraction towards Vasudeva. Although they were initially bewildered with the concept of liberation, and later on they realizes by getting the fragrance of the tulsi leaf coming from the lotus feet of the Lord, and they get attached to Lord directly. So they did not accept the order of Brahma to create progenies, to have children, etc. And here it's also mentioned that once, if a person or if people are only attached to the Lord, if there is absolutely no material interest, then they don't have to obey even the order of their own parents. They have the Once they are fully in devotion service, nothing else is applicable to such a person. So here the four Kumaras went in towards the Lord only. So Brahma got quite angry with this, because of this, because they refused to accept his orders. And here it is mentioned that his anger produced another child, which came from the eyebrows of Lord Brahma, which is Rudra. And Rudra had a particular color, which is a mix of blue and red color, which signifies ignorance and passion. So, as we know, Lord Shiva is considered to be the deity or the lord of ignorance mainly, and he is also a very powerful being, which signifies passion. So Lord Brahma allocated him his residence, and the places where Rudra is residing is considered to be these elements: the heart, the senses, the air of life itself, the sky. So all the five elements: the sky, the air, the water, the fire, and the earth. So all the Panchabhutas, that is the residing place of Lord Rudra. In addition to that, he is also residing in the sun, the moon, and all the austerities we are doing. So these are all the abodes, all the residences of Lord Shiva, a very elevated being, or Lord Rudra here. And then Rudra is also having other 11 names, which I have not mentioned here. And then he has also been allocated consorts or wives who are called as Rudranis. So they are also 11 here: Di, Dhriti, Rasala, Uma, Niyut, Sarpi, Ila, Ambika, Iravati, Swada, and Diksha. These are all the consorts or the wives of Rudra. So these are also allocated by Lord Brahma. So now, after doing all this initial creation of Rudra and allocating all the residences, device, etc., now he is expecting him to do activities. Now, Lord Brahma is asking him to accept the names and places designated for him along with his wives, and then go ahead with the creation of a large amount of population. So here what happened, the Rudra, as we already saw, he is embodiment of, in a way, he's responsible for all the passionate activities, and also in uh, lack of knowledge. So here what he did, he created many features or many creatures who are very similar to him in terms of strength or a very angry or furious nature. So all the offerings or all the children of Rudra were unlimited in number, it is mentioned. And they, when they assembled together, they became, how to say, they kind of attempted to devour, or in a very passionate, aggressive way, they started working in this world. So when Lord Brahma saw this activity of them, he was very much worried what is going to happen now. Now he is telling Rudra here that you better be living in what is penance. You should do austerities. That is the advice, or that is the instruction he is giving to Rudra, because he saw that all the creation which Rudra is doing is more of destructive in nature or bhayankar in nature. Because of that, this instruction is given by Lord Brahma to Rudra. So here it's also mentioned, by penance only can one even approach the personality of Godhead. Ultimately, the purpose of all the creation is to appease or to make the personality of Godhead happy. And if it is that, if that's not happening, there is no use of trying to do creation. So, worshipping the Lord or doing austerities and penances is the only way to make him happy. And Lord is within the heart of all the living entity. And Rudra, taking the instructions or the orders by Lord Brahma, his father, he went into the forest to perform austerities. Now, quickly, we'll also look at the sages created by Brahma. Brahma, who was accompanied by the personality, empowered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, thought of generating living entities and begot 10 sons. So, these are all the rishis or the sages created by them: Marichi, Atri, Angiras, Pulastya, Pulaha, Kratu, Bhrugu, Vasishta, Daksha. These are the 10 sons of Narada. They were born. So, it's also mentioned here how they were born. Narada was born from the deliberation or from the mind of Brahma. Vasishta was born from his breathing, etc., etc. So they are all born from various body limbs or from the mind of Lord Brahma. So this creation he has completed. And then it is also mentioned many other things got created by Lord Brahma. We are not going to details of it. How religion was manifested from the heart or the breast of Brahma, which is actually the seat of Supreme Personality of God. This is an important point. So religion, in a way, it's mentioned that it is directly connected to Lord Narayana. And then it's mentioned irreligion or lack of religion or non-reverence to the religion is coming from the backside of Lord Brahma, where death is residing. Then lust and desire became manifested from the heart of Brahma, etc., etc. So these are also mentioned here in this particular chapter. Now, one very important thing as a big learning for us is this part where Brahma has a big sensual desire. So here it is mentioned, Vacham Duhidaram Tanvim Swayam Purparitimana Akama Chakame Chatta Sakama Iti Nasutam. So in this sloka it is mentioned, O Vidura, here Maitreya Maharshi is saying, O Vidura, we have heard that Brahma had a daughter named Vak who was born from his body and who attracted his mind towards sex, although she was not sexually inclined towards him. So it's a very probably a shocking statement. Lord Brahma, who is such an elevated being or the best material being and also a devotee of the Lord, how can such kind of a desire happen in the mind of such elevated personality? So we can only mention here, it's mentioned in this purport, one part of purport, that if Brahma could be a victim of sexual urge, then what of others who are prone to so many mundane frailties? So we are such frail people in this universe, although we can consider ourselves as especially personalities like me as a devotee of the Lord, etc. It's very easy that we can fall for immoral activities very, very easily, unless and until we are completely surrendered to the Lord all the time, or we are in the association of the devotees all the time. So Prabhupada further explains here the extraordinary morality on part of Brahma was heard to have occurred in some particular kalpa, but it could not have happened in the kalpa in which Brahma heard directly from the Lord the four essential verses of Srimad Bhagavatam. So Srimad Bhagavatam was revealed to Lord Brahma, as you all know, in the heart by Lord getting into his heart, and after giving him lessons on Srimad Bhagavatam. So Prabhupada is mentioning here this would have happened in a particular kalpa where the knowledge of Srimad Bhagavatam was not there with the Lord Brahma. That will be the only reason. And he's also mentioning that it is impossible that anybody can get into any of the sensual desires after Srimad Bhagavatam knowledge is given directly by the Lord to any personality. So it's a very big takeaway for us where this could be an area which can bewilder any personality. How even a personality like Lord Brahma could have this kind of a sensual desire. So here, moving ahead, what happened once they saw the sons or the rishis or the sages saw that Lord Brahma is afflicted by this kind of a thought process. Being elevated personal, they understood it, and then they approached Brahma and spoke to him respectfully. So it's another learning for all of us. In spite of such a abominable thought process which came into Lord Brahma, which we can all consider basically for our learning or our understanding. So the sons spoke to him only with respect or compassion. So sages are appealing to Brahma, even though you are the most powerful being, this act does not suit you because your character is followed for spiritual improvement by people in general. So as we all know, Lord Brahma is always considered to be very elevated, and then people follow him as a example. So here his sons are saying that if you do something wrong, or the if the leader or the most elevated leader himself is doing something wrong, we know that people are going to follow the same immoral thought processes, and then he's requesting, or the sons are requesting him to come out of this thought. Now Prabhupada mentions here, immediately after this appeal from the sages, it looks like probably Lord Brahma did not accept it, because these sensual desires are so strong in the mind and difficult to get it. And seeing that, all these 10 personalities started praying to personality of Godhead after offering their obeisances. And because of this effect of them praying to the Lord, Brahma became very much ashamed at once, and he gave up his body. So here, sometimes we may get bewildered, or we may even think that many elevated personalities are doing these things. It's also, something we can follow. But here, see, as soon as the prayer or the sons pray to the Lord or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the shame came into the mind of Lord Brahma. And then we can see that what activity he did. This is not an ordinary activity which anybody can follow or imitate. He gave up his body instantly as a shame. And it's also important to remember that Brahma didn't take any action, with his thoughts. It was only a thought which sprouted in his mind. Immediately, because of the mercy of the Lord in a way, he took the decision to leave that particular body. And now many other things are happening in the following this. When Brahma was thinking of how to create the world in the past millennium, the four Vedas containing all the knowledge and also came manifested. It is mentioned that it is manifested from his mouth. All the four mouth of him came. So further, Prabhupada mentions here in the purport as a fire can consume anything and everything without being contaminated. So by the grace of Lord, the fire of Brahma's greatness consumed his desire for the sinful act of sex with his daughter. So all these wrong thought process, because of the mercy of the Lord, got removed immediately from his heart. And the Vedas are the source of all knowledge, and they were the first to reveal to Brahma the mercy of Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the Vedas appeared with all kind of knowledge required. So after the Vedas, the paraphernalia for conducting fire sacrifices manifested. The person who is offering, which is called the offerer, the fire manifested, the actions performed in terms of supplementary Vedas manifested, all for principles of religiosity, which are truth, austerity, mercy, and cleanliness, which are the four pillars which we follow, also manifested. All of these things also manifested as creation of Lord Brahma. And then there are much more explanation about the manifestation of the Vedas, from which mouth which Veda came in. Rig, Yajur, Samaveda, and Atharvaveda became manifest. Then the Vedic hymns came. All those things are mentioned in much more detail in this chapter. Then the medical science, the military science, the musical art, the architectural science, everything also as part of the Vedas came out. They emanated one after another, beginning from the front face of Lord Brahma. Then he created the fifth Veda, which is very important, which are the Puranas and the Itihasas, which are known as histories from his mouth, since he could see all the past, present, and future. So Brahma, with the blessings of the Lord, Brahma had the knowledge of the past, present, and future. And considering that, he has created all these scriptures. Then it's also further talking about many scriptures he has created. Then finally, it's mentioning everything like education, charity, penance, truth, are which are the legs of religion, are all created by Lord Brahma in a very systematic and in an orderly way. There are also many other creations. We are not going to into the details. The third ceremony of the ties born or the Brahmanas, that was created. The four divisions of retired life, which is Vanaprasa, which are created. The science of argument, the Vedic call of life, etc. Then the literary expression was created. The art of writing was created, and Brahma's soul was manifested as the touch alphabets. All the alphabets. So that's one very interesting thing to understand. All the alphabets across all the languages, Brahma had already created. So many times we believe that languages are created and organized by human beings in this material world, and when we do prayers in many different languages, these questions come into the mind whether the Supreme Personality will understand many languages. So here it is mentioned with the blessing of the Personality of Godhead, all the alphabets are also created by Lord Brahma himself, which came into the world. Then finally, after all these creations, then he still understands that the purpose of the creation, or making progenies, or making the world with full of living entities, are not being met even now. So what he does is, now he decides to create again. Here it is mentioned in Bhagavatam that personality of Godhead empowered him with this knowledge, that now we have to do a different creation so that the creation will go on its own. So when Brahma saw that in spite of the presence of sages of great potency, there was no sufficient increase in population, because the sages were more interested in spiritual activities and going towards the Lord. Then he seriously started thinking what to do. Then while he was absorbed in contemplation and was observing the supernatural power, two other forms were generated. So we can see that here he is contemplating on this, and then they suddenly appeared, these two personalities. They are still celebrated as the body of Brahma. So here they are not considered as the children of Brahma, rather than they are considered as the body of Brahma. And here again we can understand that it's all indirectly created or supported by Lord Krishna. So out of them, the one who had the male form came, known as Manu, which is called Swayambhuva, and the woman came known as Shatarupa, who is the consort or the wife of Swayambhuva Manu. So these two beings are created. Thereafter, through copulation, they gradually increase generations of population one after another. So this is the story of us human beings. We are all, how to say it, coming in the parampara of this Swayambhuva Manu along with Shatarupa, and then they were attracted to each other. The same attraction was maintained in this material world which is going on, and the creation is going on. And finally, Lord Brahma managed to reach or come to the purpose of all the creation. So it's here it is mentioned how the family tree of Swayambhuva Manu looks like. He had two sons called Priyamvrata and Uttanapada, and then also had three daughters, Akuti, Devhuti, and Prasuti. So they were all got married to various people. In this year, you can see that Priyamvrata got Barhimati, and then Uttanapada married Sunyuti and Suruchi, and then the three daughters, Akuti got married to sage Ruchi, then Prasudi got married to Daksha, and Devahuti to Kartama Prajapati. So all these things are mentioned in this chapter, how the progenies or how they created their progenies and continued the creation. So the father of Manu handed over his daughter Akuti to Ruchi, the middle daughter Devahuti, etc. etc. It's already mentioned. From them, all the world is filled with the population and the progenies went on. So from this chapter, I thought a few learnings which we could take is satisfaction or happiness only possible with surrender to the Lord. So Lord Brahma in the beginning, we can see that he created many elements in the beginning, so that the material world is a place which can be resided by the people coming here or the persons coming here. But he was not happy. And the moment he surrendered to the Lord and meditated upon the Lord, then he could think about creating further or come to further creations which were giving him happiness. Another important factor here is compassion. The principle of compassion is how important, because here we can see that in spite of Lord Brahma having such a abominable thought in his mind where he attracted to his own daughter, the sons of Lord Brahma, who are elevated personalities, approach him with compassion only. Rather than chastising him, they request him to understand the folly of thought process and come back to his senses. And then they pray to Supreme Personality of Godhead. So it also indicates that praying to the Lord is the only way through which we'll be able to uh, generate compassion in our minds. Then the other one is we can easily be affected by material nature, Brahma's example. So here we saw that material nature is so powerful. Although we are all in the devotional service, we are trying very hard, but Maya is so strong here. So in Kunti Maharani's Stuti, there is a very beautiful sloka which says, Maya javanika channam ajnatokshajam avyayaha na likshase mutadrisha nato natyadharo yatha. So here it is mentioned that Maya is a kind of Yavanika, it is a kind of curtain which is always in front of us, and that is forbidding us from seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then it is similarly to the example which is in Nato Natya Dharoyatha, like an artist who is coming to the stage dressed upon as a character, we will not be able to recognize that person, because of the presence of Maya. So the Maya is so illusionary, it is so strong that it will always hide the truth, and then it will influence us to go into the path of enjoyment and sensual desires. And then finally, what we can conclude here is Lord is the ultimate truth behind all creation. So all these creations we saw, as we know, the primary creation is directly handled by the Lord, although the secondary creation is done by Lord Brahma in this case, but we can still understand that Lord is only empowering Lord Brahma here. The Supreme Personality is empowering him. Only with that empowerment it is possible to create. So we can understand if a personality like Lord Brahma is able to do his even secondary creation only with the direction of the Lord, what to speak of persons like us in this material world. So any activity we do or we intend to do can be only powered by Lord's mercy. So with this, we come to the end of this chapter. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening to me so patiently. I hope I could speak a little bit of sense. In case of any questions, kindly ask. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्णा प्रभु जी, धन्यवाद, प्रणाम।
हरे कृष्ण माता जी, दंडवत प्रणाम माता जी।
मेरा कोई क्वेश्चन नहीं है, पर मुझे बहुत ही अच्छा सेशन लगा। बिगनिंग से लेके अभी तक पूरा हमारा रिवीजन हो गया, और कौन से जो पॉइंट्स थे हम लोग तो भूल जाते हैं एक बार सुनने के बाद, पढ़ने के बाद। तो दोबारा दोबारा से हमारा पूरा रिवीजन हो गया, फर्स्ट कैंटो से लेके थर्ड कैंटो में यहाँ तक। थैंक यू सो मच प्रभु जी फॉर योर वंडरफुल क्लास सेशन।
थैंक यू माता जी। मुझे कुछ नहीं मालूम है, सिर्फ वैष्णव की मर्जी की वजह से कुछ बोल रहा हूँ माता जी। आई
बहुत
डोंट नो
सुंदर,
एनीथिंग।
बहुत सुंदर।
थैंक यू सो मच फॉर लिसनिंग टू मी। हरे कृष्णा।
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी।
Yeah, actually it was a wonderful class. Very aristocratically, systematically taken. I was thinking like you started with Bhagavatam first canto, first chapter, first shloka, second shloka, third shloka. I was thinking how you'll be able to cover everything in this whatever 1 hour session, but very wonderfully you have recapped everything. You have touched upon very important shlokas. Thank you very much for revising, because it is very, very important for us to revisit and connect all the points what we have been looking until now. So it was a very wonderful session. Thank you for the session.
Thank you, Prabhuji, because I was bewildered when I was trying to remember the previous classes. Many times I realized that I'm not able to remember many points. So I thought if you put it together, it might help me a little bit. But thank you for patiently listening to me.
हरे कृष्णा प्रभु जी, दंडवत प्रणाम।
Hare Krishna Mataji, Danda Pranam Mataji.
Prabhuji, very wonderful session. The point which question is not there, but the point which I liked very much from this is like when Brahma's son, they prayed for his welfare. You told he was like in such a situation where Brahma's son, they prayers. So I feel like prayers for other, it works very nicely and help also when the other people are in tough situations, and it help us to come out from that like bewilderment or whatever we can say. So in this material world, we are many times bewildered by many things. So really like when we see our Brahma also, like when the other prays for them, so it really works. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for
Yes, Mataji.
such a great point.
Thank you, Mataji. Very, very true. I mean, I totally agree. I think prayers are the only way I can connect to that so much, because I have no idea of anything. But because of the prayers of the Vaishnavas around me, I'm protected. I'm experiencing it all the time, Mataji. Very, very true. Thank you so much for the point.
Thank you, Krishna Prabhu. Shekhar here. Thank
Hare
you for
Krishna
wonderful
Prabhuji.
class, Prabhu.
Thank you,
As
Prabhuji.
Anu said, the prayers are most important, right? Even though like Brahma son sees the parents, right? If the parent do something wrong, then the kids also can pray for the welfare of their elders as well. And one question, Prabhu, small. I don't know how relevant it is. The language you said, right? The Brahma has created all the language vowels, right? But as per my little knowledge, there's only the Sanskrit language is there, right? Earlier, not the other language, and other languages is originated from the Sanskrit only, right? So that I have doubts. I don't know. I
Yeah,
know it is
Prabhuji.
irrelevant, but I want to just clarify. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, very much. I think that is the understanding here about the language. These are all very, small description given here. My
Mhm.
understanding was also that it's mentioned that alphabets are created. So in a way, what we can understand is he created the initial alphabets. Because of that energy, all other languages got created. Maybe human beings will have many things to do there, but all the inspiration is coming from Lord Brahma, or ultimately from the Supreme Personality himself, Prabhuji. That's my
Okay, so
understanding.
Sanskrit
So
language
literally,
and
it might have
alphabet has,
happened.
yeah, so potency that it can form the different all other languages as well.
Correct,
This is
correct,
the
absolutely. even in the material knowledge, there were many, I think, how to say, researches done on languages, and there is a lot of understanding that everything ultimately came from Sanskrit only. Even foreign languages like German, there's a big connection which is established with the Sanskrit. And then German is considered to be the root of most of these languages in European countries.
Yes, but when I heard that some article also, Sanskrit is using in the quantum computing also somewhere,
Absolutely,
because
Prabhuji.
it has the potency to collect a lot of information in the small section of that.
Correct. Very
Okay,
much.
thank you, Haribol Prabhu. Thank you.
Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. So, Swami Prabhuji, or Nitya Mataji, shall we close this session if there are more questions?
Yes, Prabhu. So I think if nobody is having any questions, we will close the session today here. So we thank and we would like to show our gratitude to Rajeshwar Prabhu by chanting once Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna, Krishna
Krishna
Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama, Hare
Hare
Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare